You have 30 days to tear down that ugly wall, or we'll sue you for everything you've got. She waved that letter in my face at the neighborhood meeting. Smiled while she did it. Less than a week later, I'm standing dry inside my house, watching through the window as that same woman wades through waist-deep muddy water, pounding desperately on my door. Please let us in. Our house is flooding. Everything's gone. The whole street was underwater. Cars floating. Expensive homes filling fast. My ugly wall held perfectly, not a single drop inside. And I'd already discovered where our HOA fees really went. The $480,000 meant for flood protection? Never spent on flood protection. Not one penny. Welcome to the HOA files. I'm Jake Torino, retired Army Corps of Engineers. And this is the story of how one corrupt HOA president turned her neighborhood into a flood trap, and how I made sure she'd answer for every dollar she stole. 3 weeks before the flood, my wife Elena and I moved to Willowbrook Estates, about 30 miles outside Denver. You know the type. Every house copy-pasted by an architect with zero imagination. Every lawn the same aggressively cheerful shade of suburban green. We picked the corner lot deliberately. It sat 8 feet higher than the rest of the development. When you've spent 20 years with the Army Corps of Engineers managing flood control projects, you notice things like elevation and where water wants to go. Elena was still recovering from 18 months of cancer treatments that had nearly killed her twice. She'd kicked cancer's ass, but the chemo had left her exhausted and fragile. We just needed somewhere peaceful for her to rebuild her strength. The last thing we wanted was neighborhood drama. The sweet smell of new construction lumber couldn't quite mask the other scent I noticed immediately, the musty, earthy smell of creek silt. Most people wouldn't catch it. But I knew that smell meant trouble. It meant water had been here before and it would be back. Day 2. I'm outside checking property lines when I hear the aggressive click-clack of heels on concrete. Picture a blonde real estate Barbie in $200 workout clothes, marching up my driveway with a clipboard like she owns the place. Hi there, Brandy Ashworth, HOA president. Her smile could have powered a small city, but her eyes were calculating property values. Welcome to Willowbrook. I just need to discuss a few teensy community standards with you. I'd put up temporary sandbags along the creek. Basic flood prep while I researched permanent solutions. Nothing extreme, just standard core procedure. Those sandbags, she said, voice dripping fake concern, are really not in harmony with our aesthetic vision. I pulled up county flood maps on my phone. This area floods every 20 years like clockwork. 1965, 1983, 1999. I'm just being smart. Her smile twitched. Oh honey, that's ancient history. Modern engineering has totally solved those problems. Besides, we can't have unsightly barriers ruining everyone's investment. I asked about the development's flood mitigation systems, the expensive infrastructure supposedly handling all that modern engineering she'd mentioned. That's all handled by our management company, she said quickly. Too quickly. The important thing is maintaining our beautiful community standards. She handed me a violation notice. Pre-written. 30 days to remove the sandbags or face legal action. I watched her BMW disappear around the corner. Then I did what any good engineer does. I started researching. Flood wall designs, county building codes, HOA legal limits. Then I got curious about something else. Where exactly did our monthly HOA fees go? Every homeowner in Willowbrook paid a $200 monthly comprehensive flood protection management fee. 200 homes. That's $480,000 per year. For a development this size, that should buy some serious infrastructure. I dug through public records. HOA budgets are public information, by the way. What I found was stunning. $0 spent on actual flood protection. Not one penny. The money went to landscaping, aesthetic improvements, and administrative costs, specifically payments to Ashworth Property Management, Brandy's company. Elena found me at the kitchen table at midnight, surrounded by printouts. Find something good? She asked. Better than good. I found something that's going to make our HOA president very uncomfortable. I applied for a permanent flood wall permit, completely legal, completely by the book. The county engineer who reviewed my application actually complimented the design. Smart thinking, he said. That creek's been trouble for decades. You're the first person in Willowbrook who's done their homework. Brandy didn't see it that way. 2 days later, she showed up with reinforcements. 3 HOA board members standing in my driveway like a suburban firing squad while Brandy waved around a petition. 47 homeowners agree that your wall will negatively impact property values. I looked at the petition. Half the signatures were obviously the same handwriting. In my core days we'd seen plenty of fraudulent reports, and this had the same amateur feel. Board Treasurer Mike Stevens puffed out his chest. Maybe you should have stayed in the military if you can't adapt to civilian life. That's when Elena stepped forward. My wife might look fragile after chemo, but she's got a spine made of titanium. Excuse me, she said in that deadly quiet voice I knew well. Are you seriously suggesting my husband doesn't belong in a civilian neighborhood because he wants to protect our home? The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Brandy recovered first, suggesting decorative grasses and attractive rain gardens as flood solutions. Rain gardens for a 100-year flood. That's like bringing a squirt gun to fight a forest fire. The harassment started immediately after. Dead fish in our mailbox. Dog waste on our driveway every morning. Elena's car keyed in the grocery store parking lot. Block parties we definitely weren't invited to. Most damaging, Brandy attended Elena's oncology support group and told members that I was unstable, that I had PTSD and anger issues, that Elena might not be safe at home. She actually suggested Elena stay with her sister, until Jake gets help. Going after me was one thing. Involving Elena's cancer support group crossed every line in the book. Instead of getting mad, I got methodical. 20 years of military training taught me that emotional responses lose wars, but good intelligence wins them. I kept digging. And what I found next made the embezzlement look almost minor by comparison. Brandy's husband worked for Cromwell Insurance, the same company that wrote policies for every house in Willowbrook Estates. Every single policy had the same suspicious exclusion buried in the fine print, on page 47, right next to disclaimers about alien invasions, pre-existing flood conditions not covered. They were collecting premiums on policies they designed to never pay out. I called my buddy Doug Martinez, who'd served with me in Afghanistan before going into county hydraulic engineering. He came by that weekend officially visiting old Army friends, and examined Willowbrook's drainage infrastructure. What he found made both of us furious. Jake, these storm drains are criminally undersized. The retention ponds are in the wrong locations entirely. And that creek channeling? He shook his head. It's like they engineered this place to funnel water straight into people's basements. How bad are we talking? A decent thunderstorm will cause problems. A real flood. He whistled low. It'll be like shooting fish in a barrel. Brandy called an emergency HOA meeting to vote on banning all military-style defensive structures. She made one crucial mistake. She sent flyers to every house except ours. What she didn't know was that Mrs. Vanessa, the elderly Korean woman on the corner, had been quietly watching everything unfold. She'd lived through the 1999 flood. It had destroyed her previous house and taught her to recognize the signs. She knocked on our door the evening before the meeting, holding a flyer. Mr. Jake, they try to vote without you knowing. But I remember the flood. I remember when the water came with no warning. She handed me the flyer. You should be there. The community center smelled like burnt coffee and industrial carpet when I walked in that Thursday night. 43 homeowners had packed into folding chairs, most looking like they'd rather be watching Netflix. Brandy stood at the front with a presentation easel, wearing her best concerned neighbor face and enough hairspray to survive a hurricane. Her smile faltered when she saw me slip in the back with Elena and Mrs. Vanessa. She launched her presentation, poster boards showing my sandbags from unflattering angles, making them look like I'd built a military bunker in suburbia. These defensive structures create an unwelcoming atmosphere that impacts all our property values. When she called for a vote, I stood up. Before you vote, shouldn't everyone know what they're actually voting on? I walked to the front, connected my laptop to her projector, and showed them aerial photos of the 1999 flood. Brown water covering streets. Cars floating like toys. Houses with water lines halfway up their first floors. This is what happened to this exact area 25 years ago. 3 feet of water through 60% of homes. Total damage, $47 million. Then Doug stepped forward with his county analysis. Undersized storm drains, mispositioned retention ponds, creek channeling that increased flood risk by 40%. You could have heard a pin drop. That's impossible, sputtered Mike Stevens. We pay extra fees for flood protection. You do pay extra fees, I said. $200 per month per home. $480,000 annually. I clicked to the next slide, HOA budget documents. Want to guess how much was actually spent on flood protection infrastructure? The slide showed a big fat zero. Where did the money go? Asked Mrs. Patterson, her voice shaking. I clicked again. Landscaping, administrative fees, and consulting payments to Ashworth Property Management, Brandy's company. The room erupted. But I wasn't done. And every insurance policy in this development excludes flood coverage for pre-existing conditions. All written by the same company, Cromwell Insurance. The agent who sold you those policies. I looked directly at Brandy. That would be your HOA president's husband. The silence was deafening. Then Mrs. Vanessa stood up. Her voice carried the weight of experience. I lived through 1999 flood. Lost everything. These people, they make money when we lose homes. The vote was unanimous. 43-0 to suspend Brandy and demand a criminal investigation. She grabbed her purse and ran. The next morning brought a call from Sarah Beth Wilson, investigative reporter at Channel 9 News. An hour later, she was sitting at my kitchen table scanning documents I'd spread out like evidence at a crime scene. Jesus, she whispered, running her finger down the insurance exclusions. This isn't just fraud. This is systematic. We're talking federal charges. She pulled out her phone calculator. $480,000 annually in fake flood fees, times 3 years, plus insurance premiums on policies designed to never pay out. Conservative estimate, $2.3 million. Then I showed her something I'd found in the county archives. The original developer had been legally required to maintain natural flood barriers in perpetuity. That obligation had transferred to the HOA. Brandy wasn't just stealing money. She was violating a legal mandate to protect residents, while collecting specific fees for that exact purpose. Then Brandy called. Jake. Her voice was shaky, desperate. We need to talk privately. There's been a huge misunderstanding about those fees. No misunderstanding, Brandy. You embezzled nearly $500,000 meant to protect people's homes. Look, maybe we can work something out. You want real flood protection? I can make that happen. With what money? You already spent it on yourself. Please, Jake. Her voice broke. If this becomes criminal, I'll lose everything. My house, my kids' college funds, my marriage. You should have considered that before you gambled with 200 families' lives. Then she said it. The thing that confirmed everything. I never thought the flood risk seemed so remote. Ann Meridian Development promised the drainage would handle everything. There it was, confirmation that the development company knew about the inadequate infrastructure. The weather forecast that weekend changed everything. Unprecedented mountain snowpack melting rapidly due to unseasonable temperatures. Flash flood warnings for all Front Range communities. Chatfield Reservoir at 98% capacity. Sarah Beth contacted the FBI field office in Denver. Agent Jennifer Walsh was driving down to observe how the insurance scam would play out in real time. Policies designed to never pay for the exact disaster about to happen. I spent Saturday in my garage surrounded by concrete samples, rebar, and engineering calculations. The smell of fresh lumber mixed with the metallic scent of rain in the air. This wasn't just about protecting my house anymore. It was about documenting the disaster that Brandy's greed was about to unleash. Mrs. Vanessa appeared at the end of our driveway, followed by an unexpected parade. Tom Bradley, the veteran from 2 streets over, carrying a military-style radio case. The Martinez family from the corner house. And most surprisingly, Mrs. Patterson, who'd been avoiding us for weeks. We heard about flood warning, Mrs. Vanessa said simply. We want to help. We set up evacuation staging, installed automated flood gauges that would trigger phone alerts, organized a phone tree to warn every household whether they wanted to hear it or not. Elena and Mrs. Patterson became our documentation team. Agent Walsh arrived just as fat raindrops started hammering the pavement. Mr. Torino, I'm here to document whatever you think is about to happen. I looked at the wall that would save our lives. Then at the houses below that trusted their safety to Brandy's lies. Agent Walsh, you're about to witness the most expensive lesson in preparation versus denial that Colorado has ever seen. The rain started at 11:47 p.m. Sunday night. Not gentle movie rain, aggressive drumming like someone emptying buckets on your roof. By 1 a.m., our creek had doubled in size. By 2 a.m., it was a brown monster carrying entire trees past our house. The sound was like a freight train that never passed. At 3:15 a.m., Mrs. Vanessa called. Mr. Jake, water in my basement. Come over now. Bring whatever you can carry. She arrived 10 minutes later with a small suitcase and a photo album, wading through ankle-deep water in what used to be our street. Then Brandy called. Jake. Pure panic. There's water in my garage. This can't be happening. Where are you now? In my kitchen. The water's rising fast. Have you warned your neighbors about their insurance exclusions yet? This isn't the time. This is exactly the time, Brandy. People need to know their policies won't cover this damage. A long pause. Through the phone I could hear water lapping at something. Probably her front door. Please, Jake, you have to help me. I'll pay back the money. I'll resign from the HOA. I'll do whatever you want. Emergency, strip away all pretense and show you who people really are. I'll help you, Brandy. But first you need to call every homeowner and warn them about the insurance exclusions. I don't have everyone's numbers. You organized a petition against me. You have the numbers. Then the rescue started. Mrs. Martinez, Jake, our whole first floor is flooded. We're trapped upstairs. Mrs. Patterson, water's coming through my windows. Mike Stevens, my house is flooding. Fire department says they can't reach us for hours. Elena looked at me with those steady eyes that had carried her through cancer treatment. We have to help them. She was right. Whatever these people had done, they didn't deserve to lose everything because of Brandy's greed. Tom and I ran rescue operations from my flood wall for 2 hours while Elena coordinated from the kitchen, tracking who was safe and who needed help. We pulled 12 families out of flooding houses, including Mike Stevens and his kids. Each rescue was the same story. We had no idea this could happen. Nobody warned us. Our insurance doesn't cover floods. By 6:30 a.m., we had 23 people sheltering in our house and garage. My ugly flood wall had become the neighborhood's only safe zone. At 7 a.m., Brandy's house alarm started going off, the kind triggered when water hits the electrical panel. Through binoculars, we could see brown water flowing through her first-floor windows. Her white BMW was completely submerged, looking like a very expensive submarine. Agent Walsh documented everything. The flooded houses, the successful rescues, the insurance policies that would never pay out, and the woman whose greed had made it all possible. This is the clearest case of insurance fraud I've ever witnessed, she told Sarah Beth on camera. And we're watching it happen in real time. By sunrise, Willowbrook Estates looked like a war zone. 18 houses with major flood damage. 47 cars totaled. One HOA president whose criminal trial was about to become front-page news across Colorado. But everyone was alive. Sometimes that's the only victory that matters. 2 weeks later, the community center was packed again. County commissioners, state insurance regulators, FBI agents, and news crews from 4 television stations. Sarah Beth told me they had 200,000 viewers streaming live. Brandy sat near the front with her attorney, looking like she'd aged 10 years in 14 days. Agent Walsh went first. The FBI investigation has uncovered systematic fraud involving $1.44 million in embezzled flood mitigation fees and conspiracy to deny insurance claims. Mrs. Ashworth collected money specifically for flood protection while knowing that protection would never be provided. Commissioner Valdez looked directly at Brandy. Mrs. Ashworth, this is your opportunity to explain your actions to the community you served. Brandy stood up. Her voice was barely audible. I never intended for anyone to get hurt. The flood risk seemed so small. I thought we could use the fees for community improvements that everyone could see. Mrs. Martinez stood in the audience. My daughter lost everything in her room. Family photos, school projects, her grandmother's jewelry. Where exactly did our flood protection money go? Brandy's composure broke completely. Kitchen renovation. Car payments. Down payment on a vacation property. She was crying now. I know how it sounds. Our money was sitting there. Mike Stevens shouted. Money we paid specifically to protect our homes. Then I stood up. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of Brandy's confession. Her own voice filling the room. I can't tell them now. They'll blame me for everything. The silence was absolute. Commissioner Valdez looked at Brandy with disgust. You prevented your own neighbors from protecting themselves. I was trying to prevent panic. You were covering your own crimes, Mrs. Patterson shouted. The same woman who'd avoided Elena for weeks based on Brandy's lies. Agent Walsh stepped forward. Mrs. Ashworth, based on evidence gathered during the flood and this public hearing, you're being formally arrested for mail tampering, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud and embezzlement of public funds. As agents moved to handcuff Brandy, Mrs. Vanessa stood up. She'd been quiet through the whole hearing, but now she spoke with the authority of someone who'd survived worse things than corrupt HOA presidents. Mr. Jake, she said in her careful English, you save many families. You show us what real community means. The applause started slowly, then built until the entire room was standing. Commissioner Valdez smiled for the first time all day. Mr. Torino, on behalf of the county, I'd like to offer you a position as emergency preparedness consultant for vulnerable communities throughout Colorado. Elena squeezed my hand and whispered, "What do you say?" I looked at Brandy being led away in handcuffs. Then at the families who were alive because we'd chosen preparation over appearances. I say it's time to build some more walls. The criminal trial was swift. Brandy pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges, 4 years in prison plus full restitution. Her husband lost his insurance license. Cromwell Insurance paid a $15 million settlement to flood victims while facing federal investigation in 12 states. But the real victory wasn't Brandy's downfall. It was what grew in its place. Mrs. Vanessa was elected as the new HOA president. Her first act was establishing monthly financial transparency meetings where every expense over $50 was discussed publicly. Tom Bradley started a neighborhood emergency response team. Mike Stevens, who'd initially threatened to sue me, became our most enthusiastic advocate for flood protection funding. Mrs. Patterson testified before the state legislature, helping pass new laws requiring public disclosure of all community HOA fees and expenses. Elena's cancer remained in remission. Coordinating flood relief efforts gave her renewed purpose. She started a support group for families recovering from both natural disasters and community betrayal, because apparently those traumas share surprising similarities. My consulting firm, Torino Community Safety Solutions, now serves communities in 15 Colorado counties, 3 Wyoming counties, and 2 in New Mexico. We don't just build flood walls. We teach communities how to identify corruption, demand transparency, and protect themselves from both natural disasters and human greed. The mural covering our flood wall was Elena's idea. The concrete barrier Brandy once called an eyesore now displays a vibrant celebration of preparation, community, and second chances. At the bottom, in bright letters painted by Mrs. Vanessa's granddaughter, "Preparation plus community equals hope." Every morning I drink coffee on the porch behind that transformed wall, listening to the creek that once nearly destroyed everything. Children play safely in yards that were underwater months ago. Neighbors actually know each other now, bonded by shared survival. The wall still stands. The community grew stronger. And somewhere in federal prison, Brandy Ashworth is learning what real accountability feels like. Here's what I want you to take from this story. Your HOA collects money that is legally yours, spent on your behalf. You have the right to see every single line item. Request those budget documents. Read your insurance policy, all 47 pages, not just the summary. Check your county's flood maps. If your development was built anywhere near water, find out what drainage infrastructure actually exists. Brandy counted on nobody looking. Don't give the Brandys in your neighborhood that same luxury. What's your HOA horror story? Drop it in the comments below. Your nightmare might help save someone else's home. If this story made you want to check your own flood risk or HOA finances, subscribe to the HOA Files. We cover exactly these battles every single week. Knowledge is the best flood protection of all. Build your walls, literal or otherwise, before you need them.